The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. Want the real story behind the sound bites and headlines? Let's find the facts. Remember, it's not a conspiracy theory if it's the truth. You are not paranoid or confused. You just need to know.
Welcome, everybody. Another edition of Need to Know. I'm trying to muster up a voice on this Monday because I had quite the weekend. A lot of a range of experience and emotions. And, of course, was in the same venue on Saturday night as the presidential candidate Donald J. Trump was. He did not make a flamboyant entrance into Bryant-Denny Stadium. I guess flamboyant entrances are kind of on the down low in light of the fact that it's come to light there are numerous plots to try and assassinate him, and there's been two actual attempts that we know of. But Trump did not come in through the bowels of the stadium either. I was with Terry Quillian, my great partner for the last 10 years on a variety of shows. She, of course, joins us on the starting lineup every Saturday, our television program on ABC 3340. She also is my co-host for both of our Jocks radio shows, Kip and Terry Game Time on Saturday mornings before football, and on Sundays, our 8th year right now of the morning after. But Terry also, in her background, worked for Donald Trump in the first administration, and before that worked in the George W. Bush administration for 8 years. Terry was an advanced person, and you've been hearing that term a lot in light of the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, back on July 13th. The advanced people go in early, and she was with the White House advance team, and they basically map out every step that's going to be taken by the president when he goes to a particular city or a different place to participate in events or give speeches, whatever it might be. Rallies, of course, has become a big deal, have always been for Trump. So Terry is just intricately knowledgeable about every aspect of that. And there's some things that, she had to swear that she would never divulge. So I don't press her for details, but I love her overviews of things. And she was telling me that they won't bring him into the stadium until just about everybody is settled in. So he probably won't even arrive in town until minutes before kickoff, and they'll have some kind of methodology worked out to get him to the stadium anonymously as possible. And it turns out, and she says, and they'll bring him in through all of the underground tunnels and all the different infrastructure under the stadium and get him up to the club level. Well, in Donald Trump style, you heard a little bit of stir because just after the game started, Trump was actually in one of the corridors, which I guess being seen for him, and the security was extremely tight. And let me just say this, and this is not what the podcast's about. I'll get into the main subject matter. But the fact that I was there where Trump was on Saturday night is a good tie-in to kind of kick this off. But Trump was in the corridor right when the game was starting. He was not coming up through the bowels of the stadium because I think he insists on he wants to be seen and shake people's hands. His entourage was interesting. A whole bunch of people with him, including Senator Tommy Tuberville, who was on hand for the game. Of course, the longtime coach at Auburn, now a U.S. Senator. But also interesting characters like Kid Rock, the interesting guy, to say the least. He's now a proud bar owner in Nashville, still touring, still doing music. But Kid Rock, who is a guy that you wouldn't really think would be a diehard conservative, but he absolutely is. And John Daly, the grip it and rip it guy who shocked the world as not even a world-ranked golfer, winning the PGA championship way back when, completely a dark horse, came out of nowhere, and later really validated that victory with a win at the most storied place in golf history, the Old Course at St. Andrews, where he won the British Open. And John Daly, of course, is a well-known character of just, he just kind of freewheels through life. He doesn't like to fly, so he goes to all of his golf tournaments in his own RV. My brother and I had an opportunity down at Innisbrook Resort in Tarpon Springs, Florida, during the PGA tournament there. Gosh, it's got to have been almost 20 years ago now. My brother was the director of customer service at that hotel and spent a lot of time riding around on his golf cart. And this thing's all spread out. It's a whole it's difficult to describe. It's not a traditional hotel. It's more condos that you rent with a lot of facilities and pools and spas and and 5 golf courses on that property, including the one they were playing the PGA event on that weekend. And John Daly, of course, he's parked right on the grounds with his RV, and he's out there barbecuing steaks, and he's got 75 or 80 people hanging around, and barrels of beer, and it's just a party from Wednesday night or from Wednesday when he arrived till Sunday when he pulled out. So he says, you should come. I was down visiting my mom at the time, and he said, you should come over here tonight, and we'll ride down on the golf cart and hang out with John Daly. And I said, okay. And we had just such a great time. John Daly's the most natural guy in the world. But he's in the Trump entourage Saturday night. Clay Travis, who is known to a lot of Birmingham radio sports fans. He used to come on a lot of our shows on Jocks as a guest when he was up and coming before he started the Outkick network, which has become a big success. And then Clay also now is a regular every day on the one of the shows that kind of filled the void for the late great Rush Limbaugh, who I'm going to talk about a little bit today too. But the bottom line is this kind of interesting crew is working its way right through the stadium, and Terry was absolutely shocked. She said this would never. This is not protocol. This is all Donald Trump. And he's got to be driving all of his security people crazy. But I started to mention they did a phenomenal, and I mean a phenomenal job Saturday at the Alabama-Georgia game of crowd management and control. There was all kinds of hysteria. There was going to be these massive long lines, and it was going to take forever to get in the game. They installed magnetometers everywhere. They've had to double or triple them since the last time I was at the stadium down there, and it was well staffed. It was smooth. It was no more difficult to get into that game than any other game that I have been to in recent times. So I want to give huge props to everybody that would plan the event. Over 100,000 people. The fans adhered to the request to, let's get everybody in there and get in our seats. And it was a solid 30 minutes before game time, and it was absolutely packed out. Everybody was in their seats early. The atmosphere was unbelievable. I've been to a lot of Alabama games, and I've always made the comment that I was kind of surprised that while Alabama's got a great game day experience, the loudness and the kind of vibe that you get in some of the other stadiums, including down at Auburn, which at Jordan-Hare, it could be as loud in that stadium as any place I've ever been. But let me tell you what, the Alabama Nation showed up in just absolutely fired up form Saturday night, and they made noise from the national anthem right until the final gun, when they could breathe a huge sigh of relief that they didn't blow a 28-0 lead and lose to Georgia after surrendering that lead unbelievably in the fourth quarter. Kiefer and Kurre today, we're going to talk more about that experience and the highs and lows and what I've dealt with personally in that game with the people that I was attending with. But the long and short of the story, so Trump's there and he's being Trump. He's under threat they've attempted to assassinate him a couple times, and here he is wading through the crowd, handing out. And I don't know who had this idea, but later he came out of the suite and was doing the same thing, down there greeting people and handing out bags of popcorn of all things. I guess he swiped it from the guest from the elite level. But Trump was being Trump for the game, and boy, he saw a barn burner. And again, tune in to Kiefer and Kurre this week. Tony and I putting together that show, and we're going to talk a lot about that experience and a lot of the things having to do with the people that are involved on our television show, The Starting Lineup. So Trump is there at the game. Meanwhile, of course, there is the presidential campaign. Oh, by the way, tomorrow being October 1st and the election being on November 5th, we're not very far away, folks. That's 36 days till the presidential election. And I have been telling you on this show, I'm not ideological. I am not a Republican or a Democrat. I am an American, and I am a scholar, and and I'm proud to say, pretty much self-taught of American history. I know many details and can talk to you for hours about American presidents, what their successes, what their failures, how they came to office, what their backgrounds were. I've been obsessed, as I've told you on this show many times, since being a small child. And I don't know really who instilled this, or if it was just kind of something that I just instinctively knew. But I was well aware that we lived in the greatest country on earth from the day that I really had the ability to have perception. And, I've told you on the show before that there were a lot of times when at school or even sitting at home where we only had 3 channels back in the early days of my childhood, but we got a brand new set of encyclopedias. I remember the day that a person knocked on the door and convinced my mother that my enhancement as a human being depended on having this set of Compton's encyclopedias. And they were delivered, and we put them on this shelf, and there was all these line of these magnificent looking books. And as early as 3rd, 4th grade, I would just grab one of the random volumes, not even knowing what letter, and looking at it and saying, okay, this is M. Oh, there's a lot of presidents that started with M. And I would go to Monroe or Madison or McKinley, and I would just read, usually 4 or 5 pages with pictures and graphs and different things on each president. And it was just one of the obsessions that I had as a child, even leading up into later life. I always wanted to know how these guys, where they came from, how it happened that they ascended to the most amazing position, the most important position in the free world. And I've always been interested in that subject. That being said, so I don't talk about this election. I'm always excited for elections, and I love the political process. But what we're seeing in our country right now is the beginnings of the end of that process. And again, I don't come to you as the spokesman for the Trump campaign. I'm not advocating or endorsing anything here other than the fact that I'm not concerned for Republicans or Democrats. I don't give a damn. I think most politicians are on the same team. I've told you before, everybody that's in Washington that's a Democrat is a big government addict. They want government and more government and more government on top of that. They want more of your tax dollars. They want more control of everything in your life. That's what a Washington politician is. And that's what our forefathers really were concerned might happen in a representative republic, that if you corrupted the federal government and you let it grow to too big a size, it, like the lands that they fled from to come to establish this audacious experiment called America, would plunge right back into that kind of authoritative monarchical system where a select few people who considered themselves elite for whatever reason and better equipped to make decisions in your lives than you would be in control. And that was why all the checks and balances have been put into place. And it's important to note another thing I've told you repeatedly on this program, that a lot of these agencies, a lot of these bureaus and departments that make so many policies and have so much impact on what we see day to day in our society were not part of the original plan by the founding fathers, and they were excluded for a reason. I'll give you an example. There was no national police agency. There was no FBI drawn up in the original plan, because that's the last thing they wanted, was an enforcement branch for the federal government. The FBI is something just like our Justice Department, which also was not part of the original plan. The White House was in their conception certainly able to have counsel to defend their positions and actions and give legal justification according to the Constitution, and being the adjutant, if you will, to the Supreme Court from the executive branch. But it was just for communicative purposes. There was no Department of Justice, no FBI, no Department of Education. A lot of these things have all been added by partisan government people to, once again, kind of get control. The Internal Revenue Service, well, that was added by Republican Abraham Lincoln, because during the war effort, the federal treasury became virtually broke, and they had to come up with a way to derive funds to preserve the nation. That was Lincoln's whole purpose for conceiving the idea of a national taxation. But all of these things were not part of the original plan, and all for a reason. But here's what we face, and no less an individual as Elon Musk, who whether you like him or not, his style's not exactly, he's not a warm, fuzzy kind of magnanimous, get out there and be a man of the people type. This guy is a genius. This guy is the Thomas Edison on steroids of our lifetime. He has conceived all of these unbelievable ideas and made them real. The latest one is Neuralink, which is for people that have brain dysfunction or problems like I have with my vision. My optic nerves had malfunction, and so my eyes are perfectly fine, but what transmits to my brain is not working properly. And I don't know yet if this new technology, the latest invention of Elon Musk, who's done everything from building electric cars to really reviving our whole space program with an independent company, SpaceX, that actually is launching satellites and working with NASA now. They're going to go rescue the astronauts that are up on the space station for an extended period, when other contractual obligations from other companies to get them back, that something's fallen through or something's not ready. But whatever the reason is, Elon Musk has done so many things to pioneer areas that were never thought of, and has so many businesses, including buying Twitter for over $40 billion a couple of years ago, changing it to X. And Elon Musk is using his brilliance on his own format. He wrote an article this weekend and published it on X that laid out the reasons that no matter what your politics are, if you love this country, I mean, I could have written the same article, because if I would just taken a compilation of things I've told you here on Need to Know and things I've written in my own blogs and on my Facebook page over the last 7 or 8 months, I've been sounding the alarm, and Elon Musk wrote something very similar to everything I've been saying. And the message is, even though they want to color him now as a Trump fanatic and all that stuff, it's nonsensical. This is a guy who voted for Barack Obama twice, both of his elections. Elon Musk is not political. Elon Musk is a brilliant businessman and idea guy, and somebody that if you don't respect what he's accomplished and what he's capable of, then you really haven't looked into it. So, of course, now because he's on Trump's bandwagon for this election, they are condemning him and calling him all kinds of names, and it's absolutely ridiculous that these snot-nosed Ivy League media, state media people that don't have any experience and don't have any real knowledge are thinking again that their opinion on things is important enough as news people to project on the American public. Like, we're gonna think that a 25 or 26-year-old reporter who happened to go to Harvard or Yale, giving their strong opinion and telling you what you should be thinking, is going to have any sway on regular Americans. I was with 100,000 regular Americans on Saturday night in Bryant-Denny Stadium, and when they showed Trump in the stadium, and they were careful about how to do it because they didn't want to call attention to exactly where he was the whole time. But I'm telling you, 100,000 people rose to their feet and erupted at the introduction of Donald Trump, who did not make himself public in terms of getting on the field or doing anything like that. He stayed in the confines of the crowd and up in his box with his entourage, and was interviewed by Clay Travis from Outkick. It was amazing to hear that response, and it's amazing to know that so many people are aware of what he brings to the table for this election, and it is the preservation of this country. And I'm not overstating that, and Elon Musk was not overstating it, because you have to realize the late great Rush Limbaugh, in one of his last broadcasts, said, "Heed my words. If this nefarious movement to nationalize this country and make it what the founders absolutely wanted to avoid, a gigantic, massive, all-controlling federal government, then this land is doomed." And he said, if this movement is not put to a stop in this next election, and if someone like Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis is not elected president, it's game over, because these people want to get rid of the filibuster in the Senate. They want to pack the court with numerous justices, because once they get in control, they have no plans of ever yielding control again. And you can say, well, I've got friends who say, well, everything's cyclical. The American people will get fed up with that and they'll vote them out in the next election. You won't have a chance to vote them out, because they've already changed election laws and they will continue to change it. The Democrat primary will be the only election that determines leaders from this point on. Remember, Venezuela just had an election. The opposition to the sitting president, Maduro, was about a 70-30 poll that he was going to lose. And lo and behold, Maduro wins by like a 60-40 margin. And of course, no one has been able to count the votes or verify the results. He said that's the results, and that's the results. Do not forget, do not ever forget the words of one of the worst dictators in the history of the world, Joseph Stalin, who took over for the Soviet Union after the death of its founder, Lenin. He took over for him after his death and ruled for about 40 years. And Stalin said, people need to remember. He said, we'll have elections, but who casts the vote isn't important. It's who counts the vote that matters. And we are in a position here in this country that once, and it's what Rush Limbaugh has told you to watch out for. It's what I'm telling you to watch out for, and it's what Elon Musk also communicated, that this might be the last opportunity to derail this movement that wants to completely take this country in a different direction. And believe me, everybody, it's not a direction as a free American you want to go. That's why they're importing and encouraging and actually flying in and facilitating travel for millions of people that were coming from countries that are used to big government, and Americans will never freely surrender their liberties and their freedom to make the decisions in their lives. But this government is importing people for the express purpose of building the numbers up to a point and populating a lot of red areas of the country that will never agree to this, and changing the dynamics of everything that we now have in place. So keep that in mind. No matter what your politics, no matter what you voted in the past, if you vote for this another term of this puppet front, we had Joe Biden, who clearly suffered from dementia. They hid it for years, even though anybody who was paying attention knew it. And now they've got a mindless person with no conviction personally, who has just been about climbing the ladder of power. She can't answer a question straight up and down on any issue because she doesn't know anything about policy. She knows absolutely nothing about foreign policy and is a laughingstock around the world. If this woman gets into office and lets this become the fourth term of Barack Obama, folks, we are screwed as a country. And I needed to deliver that powerful message today so all of you understand this is not partisan politics. Donald Trump is as rough around the edges as a guy could ever be. But Donald Trump is now standing with regular Americans. And if we don't go that direction in the next 35 days, and Trump needs to win big because the Democrats control so many of the infrastructure already, this leftist movement with George Soros and Zuckerberg millions control county clerks and secretaries of state around the USA. A lot of the blood and guts of our election process have been compromised. So Donald Trump says we have to win so big that it can't be rigged. Big so they can't rig is the slogan. So if you love this country and you want America to be on the right path, it's the direction you have to go. And again, I hope that you understand the origins of my concern here. I love this country. This country is the most brilliant. The forefathers did an amazing job of setting the stage, and we are on the verge of screwing up the masterpiece they created and turning the best country on earth to live in with the most opportunities and the American dream into something much, much uglier and grim. And once you go down that road, heed the words of Elon Musk and Rush Limbaugh and Kip Keefer. If we go down this road again and let these people have control, we may never, ever have a vehicle to get it back. That's Need to Know this week. Looking forward to Kiefer and Kurre talking about some of the things we touched on this week here on Need to Know. I saw America at its best on Saturday night, and that's the America that I continue to want to see. Have a great week, everybody. Don't forget, it's in a lot of places, a lot of people have the chance now to get out and get their vote in. Do not lose your opportunity. Get your vote in and make sure your voice is heard. We'll talk to you next week. God bless all of you and have a wonderful week.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.